Hey, Sooner football fans. This is your Sooner Football Fans podcast. Today we have a huge Sooner fan on from Arlington, Texas, Jim Dillingham. Jim tells us what it's like to be a Sooner fan living in Texas and dealing with Texas fans, and how he became a season ticket holder for $85. We also reminisce with him about listening to games on the radio and watching the playback show on Sunday. Sooner football fans is not associated with the University of Oklahoma, but we do have eligibility left. Boomer. Hey, Sooner football fans. You got Terry and Rob here. Boomer Rob.
Boomer Terry.
And on the show today, we have a Sooner fan all the way from Arlington, Texas, Jim Dillingham. Boomer, Jim.
Boomer Rob, Boomer Terry, Boomer Sooner fans.
Hey, man, how's it going today?
It's going great. I'm excited to be on the show, and like I said, I'm really glad y'all have this format for the fans, and I think it's a really good thing.
Well, we appreciate it. It was our little brainstorm that we came up with, and it's starting to kick off a little bit. Pretty good here.
And the biggest part is we're having fun doing it. So
yeah. So
exactly. Yeah.
First off, tell us a little bit about Jim. You live down in Arlington. Is that where you're from, or you're from Oklahoma?
No, I moved here in 2005, and I grew up in Oklahoma, first in Altus and then Oklahoma City. My dad was in the Air Force, but both my parents grew up in the Oklahoma City area. So I pretty much was born and raised in Oklahoma. Actually, I was born in England because my dad was in the Air Force, but I still say Oklahoma. But yeah, I moved here in 2005 for my job and been there ever since. And we have a house down here in Arlington, and we're real close to AT&T Stadium, so it's nice to catch the Sooners sometimes when they play over here. Or, of course, the Cotton Bowl for the Red River Shootout or over at TCU. But, yeah, I love it down here. I still miss home and missing the Sooners. I do have season tickets, and I go to the games sometimes, so that's always something to look forward to, even though I live down here. And there are a lot of Sooner fans down here, so don't be too worried about it. About me. I see a lot of them down.
They have a big OU club there in Dallas, I know.
Yeah, and then Fort Worth has one, too. I haven't really done much with them. I always see them on Twitter every now and then. But, yeah, they do have some get-togethers I see when they put them online.
Arlington, now, I saw last week on Twitter is that you were talking about, did you go to they were playing Texas-Arlington. Did you go to that game, or did you go catch any of the draft?
Yeah, I went to that game. It's not too far from my house, and I hadn't caught a baseball game all season, and so I decided to go down there, and, yeah, it was really nice and close. And of course, they won pretty handily and looked really good doing it. So, yeah, it was good. And I even got to meet the radio crew, Toby Rowland.
T-Row, yeah. T-Row, yeah.
The
voice of the Sooners.
Cool. Yep.
But yeah, he's a pretty nice guy. We go up to Rudy's Barbecue every Tuesday night during football season, and they have their coaches show there, and he always sits around and talks with everybody, walks around. He's a pretty cool dude.
Right. Yeah, it's always handy having DirecTV down here. You can get all the Fox channels, and they have all that Rudy's Barbecue and any type of OU stuff. You can catch it on there. If I can't watch it, I'll DVR it and watch it later. So, yeah.
Me and Terry are the prettiest ones there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's a real cool deal. I mean, you fans bring their memorabilia, and Lincoln, and before that, Bob, during commercial breaks, everybody just lines up and he signs whatever you bring up there, and it always cracks us up because me and Rob, if we have anything we're wanting signed, we always just wait till the end, instead of standing in line for an hour.
Right, and that's kind of a cool deal because I don't know if y'all realize it or not, ever since the OU autograph day, it's kind of directed towards kids, which I don't have a problem with. But back in the day, everybody went up there and it was crowded and it was hot and you're sweaty waiting. So that's kind of cool that you can go to a small gathering there at Rudy's and do that. But that's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, and the one thing we did notice last year is it was the first year that's the first year we'd gone to them last year. We'd always talked about it, and when we did notice a huge drop-off in the crowd after the Iowa State game. I mean, it's usually pretty packed, and it was like, about half the crowd was there. I don't know.
More autographs for you guys.
Yeah. I don't know if they were angry. They were just, didn't want to hear.
Yeah, kind of put out.
Yeah, didn't want to hear about the loss.
And typically, Terry and I we're not big autograph guys. I mean, we'll get one occasionally, depending on, like I have a son that's a roughneck, and I bought him a custom-made Louisville Slugger bat that was red and white, and I had some of those guys sign that. But the problem that we have up there is the line consists of a whole bunch of people that want to get 4 or 5 football signs so they can go run and throw them on eBay. So
I don't like. Yeah. To me, with autographs, I think they're cool, but since I've grown up, you realize a lot of people do it just for monetary purposes. They're not real fans, and that's why I like it when the kids get them. But even then, there's mean dealings going on there. A lot of times, you'll see adults putting the kids up there just so they can get the autograph for themselves and even sell it, like you're saying, which I think that's wrong.
Yeah, and they last year, about halfway through the season, they put a stop to it, though. You could only have one thing signed a night. So, you could see the look on those folks because they would literally fill up tables with memorabilia and stand there, and they said you can only get one thing signed a night. And, after that, they still came. They just did one thing at a time.
Right. Yeah, as a fan growing up, especially as a kid, I remember I was excited if I got, some player's autograph. And, of course, now, when you're older, you don't really think much of it. So, to me, it'd be more of a memento thing, like, hey, Billy Sims signed this, and I remember that game. So, yeah. But I think it's silly when people try to, load up on eBay and all that.
Yeah. Well, and it's fine. My Caleb, who again is not here, but he was always, Dad, go up and get something signed. I got some stuff signed for some friends. I got a good buddy that lives up in Missouri, and I got him a poster signed, and a lady at my job got her a poster signed. And my autographs that I get when I get them, they have to have done something. And so far, and I'm not saying this in a bad way. I told Caleb, I was like, he ain't done nothing yet. He's just a coach right now. So, I'm not quite ready to get his autograph yet. So,
that's like that national championship picture. I think the day that Oklahoma made them, and you can pick them up at Conoco or something like that. And I grabbed one of those, or maybe it was at the autograph day. And there were so many lines. The only autograph I got was one coach. And can you guess which coach it was?
Which one?
Kel Gundy.
Kel Gundy.
So I still have that, which is ironic. He's the longest tenured coach there on the staff, and I still have that national championship trophy, and it's got Kel Gundy's autograph. That's it.
Was there nobody in his line?
No, there was. It's just, like I said, back in the day, it was out in the summer sun.
We spent plenty
of the stadium, and I just remember how hot it was, and plus, I didn't want to get my poster all wrinkled, so I was probably just enjoying the scenery. I wasn't trying to pull my poster out for everybody like all the kids were. But yeah, I looked at I only got Gundy's autograph. Like, oh well. But yeah, I still framed it, and put it up in my garage.
Yeah, and I've got a 2000 national championship football signed by the entire coaching staff.
Oh wow!
Yeah, a guy that used to work for me. Before he worked for me, he worked for FedEx, and his route was the OU route. And, of course, it was a FedEx Orange Bowl, so he got one of those balls and took it up there and asked the secretary if she'd get all the coaches to sign it. She said, sure. And so he had it in his house, and he came to work one day with the football, and he goes, do you want this? And I was like, well, yeah, how much? He goes, you can have it. And I go, what? What? Are you sure? And he goes, yeah. I said, well, why are you getting rid of it? He goes, my wife told me I had to get rid of it because it clashes with the rest of the house.
Oh, man.
I would have, my wife would never do that, but it'd have been.
Hey, listen, she better have been really hot. Okay.
I'd have been like, okay, redo the house in crimson and cream. Don't make me get rid of my football. But
or she makes you build a man cave in one room.
No, it was on the mantle of the fireplace, and so she didn't want it on there, and he said I didn't have anywhere else for it, so he goes, if you want it, you can have it. And so it's sitting in here in the man cave. But, yeah, so what is it like being a Sooner fan down in Texas land? I know there's, we were joking during the Big 12 championship game, there's probably more Sooner fans in Fort Worth, Dallas than there are TCU fans. Well,
like I said, I moved here in 2005, and if you'll remember, that was the year that Texas won the national championship. So that was kind of a nervous time for me because everybody was fired up. All the Longhorn stuff was coming out of the woodwork. And to make it a little more interesting, I used to have a '94 Chevy pickup, and on the back of my tinted window, I had a Longhorn that was upside down underneath my OU, interlocking OU insignia. And everybody in Oklahoma loved it, but when I got to Texas, I learned, like, oh, wow, I might better be or I drive.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, on that black tint, there was that OU, and then there was that upside down Longhorn, and so yeah, I was always trying to be careful about that.
How did your neighbors deal with it? Are your neighbors Longhorn fans?
No, I didn't really have that problem, and of course at the time I was living in an apartment. I moved down here, and there was one incident happened. I had an OU mat on my apartment door, and I came back one week from work, and it wasn't there anymore. Like, okay, somebody's messing around. I never did find it, and then I think one time I had like a magnet that took off my truck, so that's when I like, okay, I gotta be careful, you know. But that was back in 2005, and it seems like now the rules have changed, or Texas has gone downhill, as we all know, and you don't really have that, you know. I don't see a lot of funny business going on. But if I'm in a parking lot where I have to leave my truck for a while or something, you know, I got a big OU helmet magnet. It's pretty cool, and I put it on my tailgate. I always take it off because I just want, you know, I don't want somebody messing my truck or keying it or whatever. So, but yeah, you just kind of look where you're parking. Sometimes you'll even see other stickers on people's vehicles, and you're like, okay, this probably wouldn't be a good idea. I better take this off. I don't want to draw attention, you know. But it is what it is. You're in Texas, but like I said, being a Sooner fan, they're just a lot better than Texas is right now. So maybe that stirs up the animosity more.
Yeah, it keeps on.
But you know, most people are cool, and you occasionally will run into other Sooner fans. You'll see it on their vehicle, or just the basic curb out front. You see a lot of OUs sprayed on people's curbs. Like, hey, there's a Sooner fan. So yeah, I see that a lot, and it kind of makes you feel more at home, you know, when you find all the Sooner fans where they're living at. So yeah.
Yeah. So did you get to go to the draft? Did you go to the draft? I think I asked you, but I didn't.
I didn't go. I mean, I was excited about it, but with the crowd and everything, and I'm not really a pro fan. I mean, I did follow the Cowboys living in Oklahoma growing up, but since, you know, Troy Aikman was there and all that bunch of triplets, they haven't really done much, so it's hard to get excited about them. But I do root for OU players, you know, to do well wherever they go. And ironically, like a lot of people right now, I'm probably a Cleveland Browns fan more than anything, you know. Even though it's instant overnight, I mean, hey, you know, I want Baker to do well, and I would love to see him even just make the playoffs, you know, or get close. Anything better than that Sam Rosen, because that's a whole other topic I could talk about. Or what is it, Sam? Is it Sam Darnold? Yeah, got the names mixed up. I don't know how you guys feel, but the whole week leading up to the draft, I mean, it was always, you know, people, can Baker be picked number one? Is that true? And people just bashing Baker left and right. Sam Darnold, man, it's like he was the darling of everybody, and to see Baker get picked number one, I mean, it just made it that much better, you know.
Well,
but no, I didn't go, but I definitely love that Baker got picked, you know, for number one. So.
You know, whether us Sooner fans like it or not, you know, even since back in the Barry days, Oklahoma has always kind of been considered a rebel school, even though it's a blue blood. Right. You know, it's the. You know, Barry did what he wanted, and I think that has some of it, you know, some to do with it. And you know, we've talked about it before. I think a lot of it, the media made so much out of nothing with Baker and his, you know, on and off the field antics. They've got two things that he ever did, and both of them just happened to be caught on, you know, camera and showed to the world. But that was their whole basis of it. They, you know. It was, you know, is somebody going to let this kid be the number one pick? And, you know, after the draft, I don't know if you saw they had their TV cameras in there with the Browns coach. And he said when he came out of pro day here at OU, and after he got to visit with him for about 10 minutes, he said he walked out and told the owner, that's my guy. So they planned that from the moment he met him, you know, or at least that's what he's saying.
Right. So, yeah, my whole thing with Baker, you know, ESPN, they kind of go hand in hand with OU. They love them, but then at the same time, they kind of hate OU. Well, the same thing with Baker. They have to admit, OU, or Baker, he brought ESPN ratings. He got viewers to watch ESPN. But yet at the same time, who was ESPN, you know, following him on the sideline? Oh, look what he did, you know. I was like, you know, you can't have both ways. You want him to bring you TV viewers, but you're going to sit here and bash him and badmouth him when Kansas started it, and he wanted to shake his hand, and of course the whole thing about in Arkansas, I wish that never would have happened. I mean, that was in the summertime, you know. He got punished for his deal, but people still want to dig that up like he did some, you know, massive crime. If anything, he's kind of embarrassed for it.
Yeah, he was embarrassed. He was drunk and wouldn't shut up, and the cops kept telling him to shut up, and
someone said like public intoxication or drinking and driving. Like, man, people were blowing it up, bigger than what it was. He just flipped off, you know.
Yeah,
he would never got arrested had he not said anything, you know. But,
yeah, and there were a lot of Cleveland fans. You know, I went to the draft, and they were asking me about it. You know, when I talked to them about Baker, and they were like, you know, it did kind of bother us that he got, you know, caught by the cops, you know, and I was like, could you outrun the cops if you were drunk? Because he was drunk. I mean, I don't remember what he ended up, you know, his toxicology level was or whatever, but I was like, you know, I mean, and it was a last second dumb decision for him to do, you know, the pulling the hoodie over and they're trying to slide it and then take off running. It was, you know, just a dumb thing for him to be involved in. And like you said, I think he learned from it. And the stuff up at Kansas, I don't think that was anything other than competitiveness coming out. Because
because there's other teams he probably did that too. Also, I mean, not the cross grabbing, but he's always been lippy. And that all comes from his chip on his shoulder. You know, from being a walk on 2 times in a row to people bad mouthing to. Let's go back to the ESPN College Game Day preseason deal where they called OU pretenders, wasn't it? What's his name? Who called them pretenders? Lee Corso. Yeah, Corso. He's the one that called them pretenders. Yeah. And he never heard the end of that. And then, of course, you had Joey Galloway declaring Baylor as Big 12 champs. Wow, that lasted long, didn't it?
What a joke.
Joey Galloway.
But anyways, all that just fed Baker, you know, because as we all know, you can bash Baker all you want, but you're just making it worse on yourself because it's just kind of making that much madder and more determined to prove you wrong. So, And I think the same thing with him being a number 1 draft pick, although all these other people don't or didn't want him to be, that's just kind of making that much determined to show, you know, what he's made of. And I don't think he'll have the same Manziel results. I mean, I don't know what Johnny Manziel did, but I think it involved bottle of Crown and going out every night and, you know, how many girls he could dance with. And you remember all the videos of Manziel partying, and I don't think you're going to see that with Baker. I mean, he's already talking about playbooks. You know, they kept asking him, "Are you a LeBron fan? Are you going to be at the game tonight?" And I was like, "Man, he's going to practice like he did." You know, so that shows you where his mind's at.
I don't think that's Baker's character either. But you think about it this way: you give a man unlimited funds, and you make him the star of the town. You know, that's
that 22.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's got unlimited funds now, and he's going to, you know, I don't know, Maserati or, you know, Porsche or something, and some people,
I don't know how much he's going to make, but of course, man, I know in draft pick, I don't even know how soon you get it. I guess you get some of that up front or something.
Yeah, he signed. I think the deal. It was a 32 million guaranteed for 4 years, and I think it was like 30 million, 25 to 30 million signing bonus.
Right.
So you know, you sign your name on the dotted line, and they hand you a check. So
right. You don't remember Ryan Broyles? There was something here a while back where him and his wife, they basically the story involves them and how they're penny pinchers. They both drive like Toyota Corollas, and all the money he's made in his NFL career, he just pretty much invested it or put it away. And so a lot of the money they have, you know, they still have it. And so they were saying that, you know, this is what, you know, this needs to be put out there. This is the way, you know, NFL draftees should take care of their finances.
Yeah.
But, so I'm not saying Baker will do that, but I like the way that, you know, somebody like Ron Broyles did his thing. Of course, I don't think he's in the NFL anymore, but he was pretty smart, you know, how he took care of his finances.
Yeah, and, you know, Baker, you know, he did score, you know, I don't know what his grades were, but I mean, he scored the highest on the written test. He's not a dumb kid, so
right.
You know,
I've been meaning to ask somebody. So did he not graduate, or did he have a few more hours? How long until he graduated from, or did he graduate from OU?
I really don't know. I mean,
he's been in school for 5 years, so I assume he's probably got.
That's what I was wondering about, but no one's ever said. I never heard, which I don't fault him either way, because I'm sure you go back where he's going to be making a lot of money. But
yeah. I would assume that he graduated last year because this was his 5th year, right? in college.
Yeah, but usually they make a big deal about it. They'll show it. Here's our football graduates, you know, and they'll show them posing with a stigma on or something. But I never did see or anything online. But I just wondered.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like I said, I would just assume that he did.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't come out early. Obviously, he went to school. He went 1 year and then had to sit out a year, and then played 3 years. So I would think. Who was the USC quarterback that graduate? Oh, he's on Fox Sports now. Beat us in the Orange Bowl with USC.
God. Matt Leinart?
Yeah, Matt Leinart. You know, he came back for his 5th year, and he took, I think it was a ballet class. Is what he.
Oh wow!
he had to take a class. He graduated.
It is.
That sounds like what UT's taking. All their foot players are taking now, right?
Yeah. I saw that. What is it? Masculinity.
The 101, or
yeah, something about men and their masculinity need to calm it down. So
they need to go in the kitchen and make me a sandwich. That's what they need to do.
There you go. Oh yeah, I've already seen all the little GIFs and emojis about Texas Longhorn new uniforms with a little halter top.
Yeah, they deserve it. I mean, they're Texas. I mean, it's right. And I don't. This is. I'm 51. Rod's a couple years younger than me, and right. The changing of the world, is.
Yeah, you just kind of step back and like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I raised my kids good and taught them right and wrong pretty well, but it just seems like some of these courses now that you see that are coming out for colleges to give, for these kids to take, and it's like, why?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, exactly. Or you could be like North Carolina and just make up courses.
Yeah. Yeah. But the game has changed. I know that the NFL, they were having a meeting of changing the kickoff rules, and and they're considering them. I think not for this coming year, but for the following year, that the kickoff team cannot get a running start. So, because it's too dangerous. And
I think if they're going to do that, then they just need to cut that out altogether.
Yeah.
Just start it
at
the 20
that would be
25.
weird. It's going to be like basically just going through the motion, basically. You're not even – it's kind of like in T-ball where you just place a tee up there so they can hit it.
Yeah. And, I don't understand it because I watch a lot of football, college and pro. And you don't see that many guys getting hurt on kickoffs. No more people get hit.
No, the ones you really see the worst injuries is somebody coming across on a pass, a slant route, and then some guy just coming out of nowhere.
It's that blindside block.
Yeah, the blindside. Yeah.
That's where people get hurt. It's not the runners. It's the people.
Well, that's where you see the vicious ones, and then other than the Joe Theismann, that was pretty gruesome.
And that was back in the days. I remember watching that, and how many times did they show that over and over in slow motion? And
it was like the kid from South Carolina. What was his name? Lattimore.
Yeah,
Marcus Lattimore. Yeah, that one was bad. The kid from Miami. Right. Remember him?
Yeah,
McGahey.
Right.
But the Theismann one, it was a LT that hit him, and LT jumped right up and was. Oh, he knew and I think he said he heard it, he felt it, he just knew that it wasn't supposed to give like that, but that you don't. I know it happens on kickoffs, but I mean it doesn't seem to be any more violent, of a game on kickoffs than.
So if they make the kickoff team wait until they catch the ball to take off and down the field, there's going to be a lot more runbacks.
Oh, yeah.
A lot more.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I guess it would be exciting at first, but after a while it's kind of like, man, this isn't even fair, you're going to, It's kind of like when it's kind of like when Hollywood ran against that OU student at the spring game, he got 10 yards.
It just... And coming from my day, you're watching the Steel Curtain, and you're watching the Selman brothers, those guys, those guys in the 70s and 80s and even the 60s and stuff. Those were, those were men. I mean, there was, clotheslines, elbows to the, face and neck, and
right.
And not that
not to blood. Have full helmets. They had like this leather, and so that didn't have any helmets. So we've come a long ways, but now you're like, oh well, it's still too rough. So
not that it doesn't need to be. I mean, the spear tackles. The head to head. I mean, something like that needs to be, but I think they police that too much in college football.
Right.
Too.
I just don't want to see OU intramural flag football.
Yeah.
That's what I'm afraid of. Like, oh, don't do that, please.
Yeah. I mean, I think the rule of when they get a flag, the referee ejects them. But then if they look at it and it's not a flag, but they still get ejected, that's just not fair.
Right.
And I think they may have changed that rule this year, that they wait for the instant replay to double check it to make sure it wasn't a head on head collision. But I mean, and the technology we have now, I know OU tested some of the helmets that they had that had basically impact.
Big vent.
Yeah, well, they had impact cushions in them.
Impact sensors inside the helmet.
Yeah, they inside the helmet. So if somebody got hit, they could actually go look at it on a computer screen and see what it actually did. And which now I'm just wondering if now they have that. If somebody gets hit a certain way, and if it goes off, and they got to pull him out of the game because it's a concussion type hit. But
it's going to happen a bunch.
Yeah.
I mean, when you got a 6'5", 300-pound guy, he's got enough force to hit you with concussion power. Right?
Oh yeah. When we get these kids in here now, that they're 6'4", 6'5", 240, 250 pounds, and they tell them they're too small. You gotta get to 300 pounds quick to play play D1 ball. So, but let's see here. Your season.
You want to go over my questions?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at here. You became a season ticket holder during OU's downtime. How did that happen?
Basically, if you remember back when Switzer left and they got Gibbs in there, and he actually did pretty well, but they still couldn't beat Nebraska. And I think they lose to Colorado. And they might beat Texas every now.
Yeah.
Well, so they were doing good, but it wasn't good enough. So then they brought John Blake in. Well, I'm all for bringing out a former player or whatever, but facts are facts. If you can't coach, it's tough, because if you'll remember those were some pretty rough games. John Blake.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Couldn't coach, but he sure could recruit, couldn't
he? He could recruit.
Yeah, he sure could recruit, and him or his fans his supporters always remind, that's where Stoops got all his first players from. Well, that may be true, but Stoops could coach them. But regardless, it was tough as a fan. Basically, sometime in the 90s, I can't remember the first year Blake was there, I had some friends that let me use their tickets, obviously, because they didn't want to go anymore. So once they went and the season was over, I thought, man, I need to get me some tickets, but I didn't know how much it cost. So I called up there, and they had this thing called the Sooner Saver Zone. It was in the it was in the north end zone. But basically, you could sit in the end zone for $85.
Yeah.
Can you imagine getting a season ticket now for $85?
You can't get a single game ticket for $85.
Yeah, exactly. But it was called the Sooner Saver Zone, so I bought two, and I just kept buying them, and I, just to give you a little nutshell, there was one game they were playing like Kansas, and I think they were getting drilled by Kansas, and this little kid, he had a KU shirt on. He was yelling his rock chalk stuff, and then he started slamming OU. It's like, yeah, tear them Sooners up, because they're no good. And I remember, and I was like, I probably shouldn't have done it. I go, hey, have some respect, kid. I go, so you're an OU's home field. I go, you don't say stuff like that. Have some respect, or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's how mad I was, And my girlfriend at the time said, you shouldn't do that. She goes, he's just a little kid. I go, yeah, but it hacked me off, And,
yeah, those were.
And of course,
those were some tough times.
You could stretch. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, there was plenty of room around you to stretch. And, it was just really bad. And then one other time, I think Nebraska came and were putting a whooping on us. And at the end of the game, OU Athletics had their big tent sale of all their stuff, kind of like they did this year. And I was in there, and all of a sudden I heard this guy behind me in his northern twangy voice, "You ain't got any Husker stuff for sale, do you?" And then he kind of chuckled, and I was like, "Oh man!" I just gave him the dirtiest look. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" But that's how bad it was, as a fan. You had to put up with stuff like that week in and week out. And then the last thing I'll say about it is there was this punt returner for OU. I don't even remember his name. He got the ball. Sure enough, bobbled it, muffed it, turned it over. John Blake had him on the side.
Yeah.
Well, he let him return it again one other time. Bobbled the ball, muffed it. Yeah, John Blake this time gave him a big old bear hug and told him, it'd be okay. I don't know what he's telling him, but that's when I said, okay, this is enough. But, I kept going to the games, but I couldn't wait for something to happen. And, of course, when most teams start losing, you just start pulling for the lose stuff, so there'll be change.
Yeah.
Eventually, I think they had Dick Winder, that guy from Texas Tech was often the coordinator. You had, actually, they got Fuente. He was there, the guy that the Virginia Tech head coach.
Yeah.
He actually did pretty good. But remember that year Blake changed the offense right after game one? He said, okay, we're going to go to the wishbone or something like that.
Lasted about 3 seconds.
Yeah, he did that. Yeah, he's like, they were doing all passing, and he said, I'm going to change it. We're going to try to fire things up. But that's how bad it got.
It was, and unfortunately the last game, before my dad passed away, the last game I took him to was the Tulsa game at OU. And Tulsa.
Oh, yeah, I didn't mention that.
Yeah, Tulsa throttled us. It was like, how do you?
Is that 95?
Yeah, I think so. Somewhere in there, 94, 95. Yeah. They had, I think it was the longest touchdown pass in TU history, and I think it's still the longest touchdown pass at Owen Field because it was like 100-yard touchdown pass, and this guy was, he was 20 yards behind the whole defense. It was, it was
right.
I had to apologize to my dad. I thought I'm going to take my dad to an OU game, one that I know we'll win, which is Tulsa. And I felt terrible. I was like, Dad, sorry. I thought I'd get you into a game that we won, but
you thought it'd be a safe win, or not? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, other than that, growing up in the 80s and watching OU's domination and seeing on ESPN the Jamel Holloways or doing that magical wishbone up and down the field and people couldn't catch them. And the only team we had trouble with was basically Miami.
Yeah.
But other than that, OU had their way with Nebraska. And like, look at Nebraska. They didn't win national championships till Barry Switzer was gone,
Yeah.
And in the 90s, and they started, isn't that funny? And in the 80s, they couldn't do squat because you'd always have that Sooner magic up there in Lincoln even.
Yeah, it always come out up there.
Yeah, always come out. And, oh, man, that was some of the most exciting memories I have of OU football because it was always like, oh, you're going to be able to handle Nebraska? Are they going to be able to? Well, OU would always find a way. There was always some player that would rise to the occasion, and they had that little Sooner magic going on. All them players. That's what I remember the most. And then they go from that to John Blake, and I just like, man, what is going on? I don't just sit in the same team, and how long is it going to last? And the long story short,
it was 2 years was too long.
Not to go to the story that some guy named Bob Stoops who was the defensive coordinator of Florida came along. But even then, I didn't have any idea who he was. So I thought, well, surely you can better than John Blake, so we'll see what happens. But I had no idea what was going to happen. But
yeah, I remember I was actually, when Bob got hired, I was on my way to Eureka Springs, Arkansas for a company meeting, the company I worked with, and our company was based out of, somewhere in Florida. I think it was Orlando was where they were at. And I knew the president of the company was going to be there, and I knew he was a big Gator fan because I'd been at another meeting at it, and he, poked fun at Oklahoma because we were terrible during that time, and always wanted to talk about his Gators and stuff. And we had a break, and he had been up talking, and I went up to him, and he hadn't heard. I'd heard it on the radio, and I said, what can you tell me about Bob Stoops? And he kind of looked at me funny, and he goes, well, he's our defensive coordinator. He's a good guy. And I said, well, Oklahoma just hired him as our coach yesterday. And he looked at me funny and goes, what? I haven't heard this. And he was like he's a donor and everything else. But
This was before Twitter and people could break news to everybody.
Yeah, he was like, I haven't heard that. I said, yeah, it was on the radio. They introduced him yesterday, and he said, he goes, I tell you what, you've got a winner. The guy has a head on his shoulders. He's and he said he's cocky, he's confident, and
right.
And he was right. But then, he said, I've got to, I'll be right back. We had a longer break during the meeting because he went out and was calling his buddies, wanting to find out what was going on in Gatorland and why Stoops left. But
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my thoughts on Bob Stoops when he first got here, I thought, wow, he sure is young looking. And then they said defensive coordinator. I thought, great. It's another guy who knows defense but doesn't know that much about offense, So that kind of made me nervous. But once I saw how the defense, got it going, because back in the early days, he had some really good defenses. And even though the offense took a little while, but of course that got going once they got Mike Leach there and then Mangino and all them started concocting up those wild offenses.
Yeah.
But yeah, the defense was strong back then. Your Rocky Calmuses, your Derek Straits, just guys that would just level you.
Yeah.
And I still remember that Cotton Bowl game against Arkansas. It may have been boring score 13-0, but they didn't let Arkansas do anything.
Yeah.
And that's a C team. So I always remember that. And I remember the paint on the field on Rocky Calmus' jersey, because he was, just basically just waylaying people. But that's a player, Rocky Calmus.
Yeah.
I miss players like that on youth defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also miss Mike Leach.
Oh yeah. Everybody misses the Mike Leachisms or whatever you want to call them, the Geronimo story.
And I miss, I remember, the ninja formation. When it was like,
I still see that sometimes on college broadcasts. I'll be flipping around and I'll see like the little triangle on one side or a diamond.
Yeah, diamond, and two linemen in the center.
I even tweeted him one time. Hey, that looks like a ninja formation. He liked it when I tweeted him. But, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, because and when I remember they asked him about the play, and they go, in the only way Mike can, his little, goofy voice. They were like, "What play is that?" Well, I kind of put it to the guys, and it's the ninja formation. It's like, what?
Yeah, exactly. And it was just everything. And as you'll remember, back then OU was the only school that had that. The rest of the schools were still running the I formation and a little this and that, but nobody had a wide open offense like OU had. And of course, Leach left right after the first year, and then Tech got a whiff of it, and then it just spread like wildfire.
Right.
Yeah.
Which OU was kind of a victim of their own creation because, as you can later found out, remember when Baylor, I forgot what year it was, but it was in Norman. It was basically, they ran the field on Mike Stoops, running little short passes, and OU couldn't stop them. It was just basically, like catch and run, they were, and OU defense, either they're playing too tight or they're spread too far out. But I just remember the drive. It's like they went up and down the field on OU like a fast break offense.
Yeah, and I think we were up 14-0 at the start of that game. And, yeah, and then they just come.
Yeah, I remember that drive. People were I was in the stands. People were like, "Do something!" Gosh, Mike, what are you doing? And they were yelling at him all kind of obscenities, and of course, Mike's pulling his headset out or whatever. I mean,
we were.
I can't remember.
We were
he was
up,
on the sideline.
I think we went up 14-0 or 14-7, and that was it. I mean, I think that's all we scored, and we couldn't get the ball away from them. You're right. It was like a basketball team going down the court. There was no defense whatsoever.
Right. That was like when their coach Art Brown, like he first got there, and of course he was already a Texas high school legend, so he'd already been tinkering around with all this stuff. And all them Texas high school coaches, they took a lot of that stuff from Leach and everything he would do, and that RPOs, and then it was just crazy back then. And just like I said, OU was a victim of their own creation because once Leach left, it seemed like every school started, picking a little bit of this and that from the offense, and that made it tough on Stoops, or both Stoops is trying to stop it, even though they're the ones that had to defend it here at OU. I don't know, just crazy to think about. And that's why the SEC and everybody else bashes the Big 12, like, oh, you're just some big air raid circus. Y'all don't even play real football. And I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain that. Because when you remember the night in Lubbock 2 nights ago when it was like 70 to 69 or whatever that
Oh
was.
my God, that was.
Oh my gosh, it's like surely somebody can stop somebody. I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah, that was a horrible night. It was just
with that West Virginia game in West Virginia.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was the worst.
What was that kid's name that they
Tavon Austin or
Tavon Austin for West Virginia?
Yeah.
And I forgot who it was for Tech, but it's like the receiver. That was back. Basically, they were just everybody just go out and I'll throw it and somebody go up and get it. You know, it was just and no timeout or no huddling. Of course, you just snap it and go, snap it and go, and it's just crazy. But yeah, your defenses get gas. So I don't have an answer for that. If everybody's running that offense, I mean, you're gonna get all worn out on defense. So I don't know. I would love for the Big 12 half of the teams to go back to being just a one backfield and couple of receivers, but I don't know if that'll ever come back,
So I miss those days, like the 2000 OU Nebraska game. Do you recall that one? I was there.
What year?
Yeah, it was here. I was there.
2000.
2000.
Oh yeah. I was at that one where they pepper sprayed everybody at the end of the game to get off the field. And, yeah, that wasn't any fun. I didn't get on the field, but I heard stories about people getting pepper sprayed or
they pretty much moved the ball at will for 2 touchdowns. And then they didn't get a yard, seemed like, after that.
Yeah, after that, it was...
Shut them down completely.
Yeah, and, it was... I remember watching it, sitting there going, I was watching it on TV, I was like, well, it was good while it lasted, because they went up like 14-0, and...
Yeah, they took the lead, and like, oh boy, here's the wake-up call, because remember we had a winning streak, we were knocking people off in the top 10, knocked K-State off, knocked Texas off. Okay, well, now this is Nebraska. You really got to have your horses running and knock these guys off. Then the main thing I remember about that game is that Andre Wilfoot, one-handed catch, he falls on his butt.
Kicks it with his foot.
Yeah, and I don't know how he caught it, but he cradled that ball in his hand. That's when I thought, okay, this is something big happened. So, yeah. That was crazy, and you had to come from behind in that game. But once they came from behind, man, then they just took it to them. The defense, the offense, and the crowd was getting into it, and it was crazy.
So I remember leaving that game, and we were walking by a big group of Nebraska fans, which they were all pretty cool. But one of them had said something. I can't recall what it was, but someone took it, offense to it. Of course, there was 1,000 of us there. And he said something back, but the OU guy said, "You know what? I'm just glad Oklahoma's back."
Right.
So we don't have to take it anymore.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna do
that reminds me of another Nebraska story during the John Blake era. We were getting whooped like 70 to something in Norman, and a Nebraska fan behind me, he came up to me. He goes, "Hey, it's gonna be okay." He goes, "We want you to score." I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "We came all down from Lincoln. We want to see the little schooner on the field." He goes, "It doesn't come out unless y'all score." I was like, "Oh my gosh," I was like, these Nebraska fans, because it's true, they do sell out. So a lot of their fans don't get to go to the games, so they go on the road. That's what this one guy told me. He said, because a lot of times you can get tickets, well, obviously you can get tickets at OU because they weren't selling out during the John Blake days. But yeah, just to hear those little Nebraska fans say stuff like that, I was like, "Oh my God, it can't get any worse,"
Yeah, okay. Okay, this is depressing. Let's talk about the upcoming year. If we keep talking about this, I'm going to go out in the garage and grab a beer, and I'll just sit there all night. And
Right. I mean, if you want, you can ask me how I became a Sooner fan. That was one of the questions I didn't answer.
How did you become a Sooner fan?
Okay, in my house, I'm the youngest, and I have a older brother and an older sister that actually went to OU. And I remember as a kid on Thanksgiving Day going to my grandparents' house, and they had the OU game on there. They hadn't been playing Nebraska because I just remember both teams had red on their color scheme. But it was back in the 70s, and I just remember how big of a game it was and how everybody was into it. Well, I started watching my grandpa, and from then on, I started following. Well, back then, they didn't have OU on TV every Saturday. Matter of fact, you were lucky if you saw OU twice a year.
Right.
Because they didn't have college football covered like they do now. Only Notre Dame and Ohio State, teams like that were on TV all the time. But from then on, I'd either listen to them on the hometown radio station. My parents had a radio on while we were at the house or in the car. And I remember vividly hearing the runs by Billy Sims told by, I think his name's John Brooks.
Yeah, John Brooks.
And he would tell the the run in tens. He's at the 10, he's at the 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Just down the field. So you pictured it in your mind. Well, from then on, that really got me fired up. And growing up in grade school and hearing about OU, I used to shop for OU shirts, whatever I could find. I had to back then we had to look in JCPenney catalog, but OU was big enough that they were in JCPenney catalog back then. Notre Dame and Ohio State. So I used to get an OU shirt. So before I know it, I had 5 shirts. Well, we were moving from Altus to Oklahoma City when my dad retired from the Air Force. So I made all my friends, I follow my shirts. I go, hey, this is my last day of school. So I made them all wear OU shirts. This is my last day of school. But that's just some of the memories I have. And I just kept getting fired up. And of course, then you get to the 80s, and by then, being in high school, can you imagine watching OU running up and down the field on people scoring 77 or whatever it was, on the likes of SMU or A&M, I forget who it was. It was just exciting. And then the things that they had the chance for the national championship in '85, we had to get past Miami. Those other 2 years we couldn't. Well, this time it was Penn State, so I thought surely we can get past them. And of course, everybody knows what happened. But that was Sooner football back then. That just pretty much made me a real fan. I didn't have season tickets. My parents didn't go; they couldn't afford it. But there was a few times I had a neighbor, his uncle didn't want to be out in the cold, so I forget what year it was, 87, 88, OU Nebraska and Norman, and he told me 30 minutes before kickoff, hey, my uncle can't go, would you like to go? He said, but you have to drive. So we got in our car and drove from Harrow, which is 30 minutes east of Oklahoma City. Well, by the time we got to Norman, the kickoff had already gone on. They're already in their first or second series, and all of a sudden, as we're standing outside the stadium getting ready to walk in, we can hear out, how it is on Owen Field. If you're outside and there's something big happening, you can hear the roar get louder and louder. I said, oh man, what did we miss? But later on, so we got home, we found out that Keith Jackson ran an 88 tight end reverse down the sideline. I mean, it's just, oh wow. I mean, that was the memories I have that just made me a real big Sooner fan, and from then on, I was just talking to you in class, and
I mean, you're a lot like us. I mean, we grew up in an era, where the 70s and 80s, you didn't have, like I said, you'd get to see the OU Texas game, and usually the OU Nebraska game.
Exactly, those are the 2 games that might make TV.
Right, and then you got to watch the ball, and other than that, you listened to John Brooks on the radio, and you couldn't wait until the news came on that night so you could see the playbacks, the highlights on, I grew up in McAllister, so we, watch TV, stations out of Tulsa, and you want to watch, Channel 8 News and Chris Lincoln give their lowdown of the OU game. And then, of course, the next night on Channel 8, the Barry Switzer Show.
The OU replay show,
at 10:30. Yeah. And so that's the only time you got to watch it.
Yeah, I used to do all those. You'd have Barry Switzer sitting in that nice, fancy leather chair, and I think maybe by then it was Dean Blevins or somebody all decked out in their stuff from Orbach, men's fashion clothier in Norman, and they're all decked out talking about the game that happened the night before, and man, those are good times. I actually look forward on a Sunday night. I go, can't wait. It's almost time for OU replay show, because like you said, you didn't get to see the game live. You just heard it on the radio. And my other way, since we're talking about Twitter, back in those days, the only way to really follow OU and find out what's going on other than the Daily Oklahoman or the Tulsa World was a thing called Sooners Illustrated, a really nice colored magazine that had, some of them had little posters in them you could pull out and you could put them on your wall. I remember having posters of Leroy Selman or Billy Sims or
which I had some of those now.
Or AC Watts, and I was always excited. I'd go down to the United Supermarket in Altus, Oklahoma, and they had a new issue of Sooners Illustrated. Man, I'd go in there and I couldn't wait to find out who OU recruited, who they signed. But that's how you found out about recruiting back then too. You had to wait until Sooners Illustrated, told you it was on the team. But,
and or you saw on signing day they would have, have OU at, or the TV would be at one of these schools, local schools, or down in Texas.
Right.
They signed the number 1 back, but that's really the only time you ever heard of him was when they signed him. You didn't know who he was.
I do remember going to Oklahoma City and turning into KTOK 1000, and Al Ashback was on there, and he would always follow the top blue. They call them blue chips, by the way, people.
Yeah.
If you know what a blue chip is, that was like a 5-star recruit nowadays. Anyways, he would tell all the blue chips that OU was offering. Well, more times than not, yeah, OU was offering him, and yeah, he was interested in OU. But at the same time, Texas was hot on his heels too, recruiting him. And it was always some top back, or some top quarterback, or some big lineman or defensive lineman. So you were crossing your fingers like, oh, please, God, let him go to OU. Don't let him go to Texas, you know. And, of course, Texas, that's when they started the Texas players should stay in Texas. Yeah. And, you know, I was like, get that out of here.
Yeah, we don't, you know, they come here because, you know, I mean, well, you brought up Derek Strait. Derek Strait, he was from Austin.
Yeah.
Baker
Mayfield from Austin. I mean,
right.
How many times have you ever heard of a kid, you know, playing at Texas from Norman? Okay, it don't happen.
Right. Every once in a while, there might be some kid from like PC North or Putnam City that might go to Austin, but it was very rare, you know. And he had to be pretty good, or Texas, you know, look down on him like, that's Oklahoma kid, I don't care. Because more times than not, you always see the Texas fans like, yeah, but all your teams are full of Texas kids. Like, so? What's that say about your school? They don't want to go to your school, so what does that say about you? But, I always get tired of hearing that.
They got to have something to hang their hat on, so, you know, we're better
than you are. Exactly.
5 times bigger than we are.
Yeah, and we all know the great Dale Real, the great coach of Texas, went to OU and played for Bud Wilkinson, and he's from Hollis, Oklahoma. So,
But
their stadium's named after an Oklahoman, by the way.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
it goes back and forth. We have Texas ties here. I mean, we got the man from Muleshoe now. Of course, he didn't go to Texas, but that's okay. So
So what do you think about next year? I mean, or we've talked about it before. I like our non-conference schedule this year. There's you know, I mean, we got Florida Atlantic, and we got Army, but both those teams won plenty of games last year. UCLA.
Yeah, and that's what I've noticed too. And because of that, and because OU don't have Baker anymore, we've got the Baker's gone folks out there, not necessarily OU fans, but non-OU fans, or OU haters, as I like to call them.
Well, I mean, those same people.
As they like to bash Baker and make fun of him, boy, they sure are glad he's gone, because now they have a chance to win the Big 12.
Well, here's the deal about those people. Those people said the same thing last year when Mixon, P. Ryan, and Dede were there. You know, Westbrook. I mean, they're like, well, Baker has no weapons. You know, what's he going to do? Oklahoma, and we were way down.
Yeah, you lost Samaje.
Yeah,
you lost Joe Mixon.
You lost, you know, and look what happened. You know, they you know, we just reloaded the.
You lost Sterling Shepard. You know, what are you going to do? You know. I mean,
so we just reloaded that backfield, and I think that's what we're going to do with the quarterback position, honestly. I mean, we're not going to have...
I mean, do I feel nervous starting a new quarterback? Yeah, I do. I mean, and he hadn't had a whole lot of playing time. What playing time he has had, he's looked damn good.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that run he had.
West Virginia.
Remember when Kyler Murray came in, was it against West Virginia, and had long...
it was when Baker was suspended for the first drive.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So that looked pretty good. And you got the whole baseball thing going on, so that kind of makes you nervous. And then, of course, you got Austin Kendall. I almost said Kendall Thompson. Got the name game going on there in my head. But yeah, and I'm sure he's getting impatient, waiting, and that's a whole other story, too. OU football, they load a quarterback nowadays. Yeah. Gone are the days of having just one or two quarterbacks on campus for 4 years. OU basically gets a quarterback every other year, if not every year. So as you can imagine, somebody's going to get impatient. But that's what you got to do. You know, you got to have people waiting in the wings. It's just like a running backs. Though you don't just have one feature back anymore. They have like a stable of horses, as people like to say. And that's what you got to have nowadays. At least OU does, and that's how they punish people, by having fresh legs in the game. But yeah, I think Kyler Murray will do good, and I think Kendall will do good, and I just want the best man to win the job. I think with OU's non-conference schedule against FAU, you got the coach there. Mine's already gone blank. Help me out here with the guy that people can't stand. He's kind of like the little grinning possum that Tennessee couldn't stand, the way he left him in the cold.
If you wouldn't ask me,
Lane Kiffin.
Thanks, Rob.
Lane Kiffin. Sorry about that.
I went blank too. So.
Yeah, I mean, here's a guy that drifts from school to school, you know, and now he's had to all the way down to FAU, but he's a mastermind of offense.
Yeah.
Does that add up to a win in Norman? I mean, I don't know.
What I don't like about what this means for us is we have got to plan, and I mean really plan for that offense. Then we got to turn right around and we got to plan for Army. Those are good.
Right, exactly.
Two different defensive
they run an
mindsets.
option or wishbone or whatever they run down there. Yeah.
I think I call it the flex bone now.
But it's like you said, it's going from one extreme to another, and that's another thing. We still got the whole Mike Stoops defense. We wanted to do well, but we've been waiting for the last few years, so we don't know how that's going to turn out. Now, we got Bookie and people like that, but people's going to have to, if anything else, here's what I learned, is back in the Stoops days, if OU wasn't doing well at the beginning of the year, by the end of the year, even if they had a loss, they always turned it around and circled the wagons. By the end of the year, they were running like a well-oiled machine. So, yeah, it does make me nervous with FAU, even if it's in Norman, until I see what OU does on the field. But I love the talent we have coming back. I mean, I love Hollywood. I love C.D. Lamb. I love seeing what we got at running back with all those backs. So, and the offensive line, refresh my memory, it's still going to be good, right? We didn't lose.
Yeah, we lost.
Orlando Brown.
Orlando Brown and
Eric Wren.
Eric Wren, yeah.
Eric Wren, yeah. But I know they had some people, I think last year, like, well, we want him to play, but there's just not enough room, So I know there's some people waiting in the wings.
Well, there was actually a guy that was as good, I think every bit as good as Eric Wren, named Creed.
Right, I like the kid from Shawnee. I forgot his name, the big lineman.
Anyway, he's going to step right in. And
I can't think of
Creed Humphrey.
Creed Humphrey, yeah.
Yeah, Creed Humphrey, yeah. And I have a guy from my hometown, Logan Robinson, but I don't know how close he is to starting, but hopefully he gets some reps. But yeah. Logan Robinson's from Hera, so yeah, that's why I bring him up. So.
But I think the offense, is loaded, and the thing I do like, you brought up, that we're, I don't think overstocked on quarterbacks. We're just well stocked on quarterbacks. It would be one thing if we were overstocked with average quarterbacks. We got some of the best quarterbacks coming around.
Wait till we got Mordecai, Rattler, and Austin. All
I'm already looking ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, this is sad to say, but I'm like, okay, who's going to leave first? Spencer Rattler's not even on campus yet, but you already got Connor Mordecai, and you got, like I said, we got the kid from North Carolina, Austin Kendall, and that's another thing. I lose track of who's where on eligibility. Is this Kyler Murray's last year, or does he have 2 years eligibility left? Refresh my memory.
He's got 2 years left. He's got this and then another one.
Wow. So if he wanted to, he could stay for 2 years, and that's where somebody's going to get impatient.
Yeah.
That's going to.
But the thing is though, with like Spencer Rattler and Kyler and Austin Kendall and the Mordecai kid, these are.
So you got a red shirt, some of those guys.
Yeah, but these are the elite athletes, and elite athletes will compete, and they're going to make each other better. So regardless if one of them gets eventually impatient, the level of quarterback play that we're going to have and the depth at quarterback play is going to make them all that much better.
Well, look at this. In the last few years, who Lincoln Riley's recruited, apparently they weren't too nervous about getting to play because they know who's on OU's depth chart, and they still were able to sign them. Connor Mordecai and
well, if you don't want to compete for a position, Oklahoma, Alabama, those places aren't the places you want to go. I mean, if you got those colleges like we'll just throw it out there, Kansas. What was the guy from Notre Dame that coached up there for a while?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Weiss?
Yeah, golly. He coached at Notre Dame and then he coached at Kansas. Weiss?
Something like that.
Something like that. But anyway,
I know you're talking.
He was at the Big 12 media day, and they asked him, how are you recruiting to Kansas? He goes, I've only got one thing to tell them to come to Kansas, is that if you come to Kansas, you will play the first day.
Exactly.
If you're going to go to Oklahoma, you're going to be there for a while before you can play. That's what Charlie Weiss, that was his recruiting tool was, you come here, you can play automatic. Well, it didn't work.
Because we only got 12 kids on the team.
Yeah, but these kids like this that we're getting now, the 4 and 5 star quarterbacks, corners, receivers, they're coming here to compete. And they know.
Like this week, OU's welcoming a kid from 2020. Is it 2020?
Yeah.
2020. Top quarterback out of Pasadena, California. So I'm like, okay, I guess the show must go on. You keep recruiting, quarterbacks, and that's fine. I just want to know what they tell them, so they don't get nervous about getting to play. But
I know I'd like to be a fly on the wall on some of those sometimes, just see, what they do tell these kids, especially that far out,
Right. I mean, well, and one thing you got to remember too is how about the kid who was committed to OU, loved OU, and then all of a sudden he flipped to Texas. I've already forgot his name. And now Texas uses it on Twitter to make fun. A lot of their fans will make fun of it. Oh yeah, it's like, yeah, y'all are really good with quarterbacks, so they end up coming to Texas. He was from California, but I can't remember him. Of course, Kendall Thompson, we all know his story. But yeah, they had that kid from California that was committed to OU. He was excited about OU, and then like a month later, he just leaves, goes to Austin, and decides to become a Longhorn. But so I think that's why Lincoln continues to look at quarterbacks. You never can, feel too safe because you don't know how some of these kids are going to end up with their commitments. Which that's a whole other story too. I don't know how many times I see a kid commit to OU, and then he takes his visits everywhere else, and then you're like, what's going on? And all of a sudden you hear about him flipping. And
yeah. Well, I'll just say what Brandon from when he was on our podcast, we talked to him on the podcast and off, and we talked about that, these kids, decommitting, and he said, fans, of course, they read into it and are like, oh my God, we lost this. He goes, but I'm telling you, there's a stable of people behind them waiting. Right.
waiting, I never get nervous. It's just more or less of getting excited and like, hey, welcome so-and-so the day they commit, and then all of a sudden you feel like, okay, which not to mention you want to kind of clean them off your Twitter. Not that you hate them, but you don't want that new school's propaganda on your Twitter feed. Oh, I can't stand that when that happens. But I mean, that's me. But and then some of them will go, well, how come all these fans are unfollowing me? Like, well, nobody wants to follow Longhorn stuff anymore. You're a Longhorn now,
We only want to make fun of Longhorn, so that's
exactly. I mean, I wish you the best, but I don't want all the Longhorn locker room sledgehammer propaganda coming up on my Twitter feed.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, Jim, we're going to go ahead and call this one a show.
And the last thing I'll say is just like when I was driving to work, it was really refreshing to hear some of the fans' take on stuff that they know about OU football and what they see. And so, yeah, I look forward to, turn on tomorrow on my way to work. And just
again, thanks for coming on, and we got your number and stuff, and we will do it again if you want to. We're going to kind of...
I'd love to, and, of course, want to give everyone else a chance, but yeah, I'd love to sometime. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for listening.
Thanks, Jim. We really appreciate it, man.
And we'll...
Boomer, y'all.
All right. Boomer Rob.
Boomer
Jim. We'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right. Boomer soon.
Thanks for listening to the Sooner Football Fans Podcast. If you want to be on the podcast and talk Sooner football with us, go to www.soonerfootballfans.com. Click on the How to Be on the Podcast tab, fill out the form, and we'll get you on. Boomer.